Hello everyone, today's tutorial is going to show you how to take your 3D model and slice it so that you can print it on one of our 3D printers. So to begin, what is a slicing software? A slicer is a program that converts digital 3D models into printing instructions for a given 3D printer to build an object. In addition to the model itself, the instructions contain user-entered 3D printing parameters such as layer height, speed, and support structure settings. So what are some 3D slicing programs? Well, right now I'm using Prusa Slicer, which is mainly for Prusa printers, but you can set it up where you can print on other printers. Another slicing program is called Cura. This one is free. And then as well as Simplify 3D, which I believe you do have to pay for. Okay, so now we'll look at the placement of your 3D model. Model placement is crucial for a successful print. I have two models on the screen to show you some examples, but first we'll go over the tools on the left. First select your model, and then you can select Move, which just moves your print around or your 3D model. Next is Scale, which you can scale or scale down your 3D model. Third is rotation. You can rotate your model. And then we have the lay flat tool, which you can select a side to lay flat on the build plate. And then the last tool we have is cut, which you can cut your 3D model in half if you needed to. So the first thing you want to do is try orientate your model so that you can maximize the surface area on the bed. Right now I have this part, and currently only these long edges are touching the build plate, and that isn't ideal because then the print has an opportunity to warp and then not adhere to the build plate, causing a failed print. So how we want to fix this is just by hitting the Place on Face tool, and then you can orientate it, flip it around. So the best idea for us for this model would be laying it on the side that has the most surface area, which would be this side. There, and that should adhere to the bed better than how it was before. And then same thing with this print. Currently it's just sitting on these edges, so if we rotate it, there we go, and it's sitting flush on the bed now. Shouldn't have any adhesion issues. Secondly, you want to orientate your part so that minimal supports are required. So coming back to this first model, if we flip it back around, you can see here there's some overhang right here that would require supports, as well as this part that is not touching the build plate. But if we flipped it over, you can see it's laying flat now. These don't need supports because there's no overhang anymore. This is touching the build plate, and then the holes, of course, will require supports. Okay, so now we'll go over the print settings. So firstly, you're going to want to select your printer type. The only Prusas we have in the makerspace are Prusa i3 MK3S. So you can just come here, printer, click. There'll be this little drop down. You can select between different Prusa printers. And if you don't see Prusa i3 MK3S, you can go to Add New Printer here, and then you can select just by clicking this here, hit next, next, and then finish. So now you're going to want to select your filament type. There are two main types, PLA and PETG. PLA filament is stiff but brittle 3D printing material. It's best used for cosmetic parts, prototypes, desk toys, or low-stress applications. While PETG filament is durable and flexible 3D printing material with a glossy finish and is impact and heat resistant. It's best used for mechanical and functional parts, but it's harder to print with. So to change filament, you're going to come up here above printer, click, there'll be this drop-down menu, and then you can select your filament. Usually, if you're printing in PLA, you just select Prusa PLA or PETG, Prusa PETG. Next, we'll look at layer height. The lower the layer height, the more detail you get out of your print. However, this does increase the print time. A higher layer height will speed up your print but decrease quality. And 0.2 millimeter is usually a standard layer height that will work for pretty much anything. So to adjust your layer height, you can come to print settings. It'll be this drop down. You see we can go all the way up to 0.15 millimeter. That's detail, 0.2 detail, 0.3 quality, and then as you get higher, you lose detail, but your print time does increase. So we'll just select 0.4 for now. And then next, we'll go over the infill percent. So 0 to 20% is usually used for non-functional parts. For pieces that are non-functional or do not need to withstand force. 20 to 40% is for light use parts. For functional parts, which will undergo some force. And then 40 to 100% is for heavy use parts. But most commonly, 20 to 25% would work for many prints. So here is the infill percent. You can hit this drop down arrow and select, or you can type in whatever percent you want. Next, we'll look at supports. So in general, when your model has an overhang or a bridge which is not supported by anything below, you're gonna have to use 3D printing support structures to be able to 3D print it. General rule of thumb is that if the overhang is 45 degrees or more, it needs support. I'll put a visual example of what I'm talking about on the screen. So if we go back, we can just delete this part, flip this back how we originally had it, and you can see that this overhang right here is greater than 45 degrees, so that's going to require some supports. So to add supports, click here. You can choose between support on build plate only, for support enforcers only, or everywhere. For this case, we'll do support on build plate only. Just hit yes. And then now when we go slice it, you can come here and see that added supports where that overhang was. But it did not add supports in the holes. So to fix that, you can come back and hit supports everywhere. Slice that now. And there we go. You can also add support blockers, and that's what this is used for. It's pretty useful if you have some tricky overhangs. Okay, so lastly, you're going to want to slice your model. If you come down here to the bottom right, click Slice Now. This will slice your 3D model layer by layer. You can use this slider on the right to go down each layer. Just make sure to check for any overhangs that don't have any supports, anything like that. And then if you come down here, you can see the slicer info. Here we have the used filament. That's going to be 20.49 grams, estimated cost, and then estimated printing time. this all looks good, you can go ahead and export your G-code, save it whatever name you want, save it to a thumb drive, and then bring it into the makerspace. Hope you enjoyed today's lesson. Have a good day.